There, this is Dara here from Nurture, and in this tutorial I'm going to cover how to create and run a live quiz session on Nurture Signal. So unlike an engaged session, a live quiz session is just really focusing on checking for understanding. It doesn't have all of the other check-in types that the engaged session does, but this is a really good focus session for to be able to get that check for understanding. A lot of this we covered in course 3 on Nurture Learn, so definitely check that out before you maybe run your first session. But essentially what this does is creates a bunch of Hinge questions based on how your lesson is going to run. So you could add in your lesson plan, it will create the Hinge questions for you. You might teach the topic or teach a section of the lesson to your students, and then you would do a very quick check for understanding to ensure that your students actually understood what you've taught them. Now, like the engaged session, you run this live in class, but unlike the assessment version, like I said, this is running in class and this assessment version runs outside of class. But what's useful to know is that live quiz and assessment are very similar. Both of them are essentially Hinge quiz questions. Just one of them is in class, one of them is out class. Okay. So with live quiz, if I click and open this here, I want to create a session here. So let's say I am working on, I'll say World War II again. Just like in the last example, I'm just going to say the invasion of Normandy just for these tutorials, but in later tutorials I will do other examples on how to do this for various other subjects as well, so definitely check out the subject specific ones as well. Now my display name, I'm happy with, this is the name that will display to my students, and here's what's important for generating these questions. So we need to describe what the session is about and include any details that we want used. So this is essentially what is the lesson supposed to be. From that, it's going to generate Hinge questions for various points in the lesson. So the more specific about the lesson that you can be here, the better outcome you're going to get. Okay, so I'm just going to put in a very basic lesson plan for this as an example. And once I've put in a description in here, I just put a very basic one in, but there's a couple of things that I just want to call out to you now that I'm being really specific about. So this is for year 9 history. It's roughly a 45-minute session. This is the lesson, what it's about. Here is a rough overview or breakdown of how the lesson is supposed to go for me. But what I'm calling out here is that I'm being specific about what year group this is for, just to make sure that it's going to generate questions aligned with that expected year group. And then obviously the topics that I'm planning on covering throughout the lesson and the subtopics of this specific lesson. Okay, so a couple of very specific descriptions within this this generate with AI description bot. Okay, now the Hinge questions I want to create, now by default this might be set to 4. Just for this example, I'm just going to set this to 3 for now. And like the last tutorial, I'm going to prepare this one for later because I don't want the session to start immediately. So I'm just going to click prepare for later. Again, this isn't part of any group, but like I mentioned in the last tutorial, the groups are essentially just like a foldering structure. So you could have a group for different classes, you could have a group for different students. But for now, I don't have any specific groups. I'm just going to allow guest participants for now. And once I'm happy with this, I'll just click next. Now what this is going to do is it's going to create a draft session for me, okay, and it's going to create those Hinge questions in the draft mode. The session isn't going to start or anything like that. It will only start once I'm ready for it to start. So it's now generated 3 questions for me. I can see this is 1, this is 2, and then this is 3. And with each one, it has given the question and it's given 4 different answer options. Okay, now they're all single answer for now. I'll touch on multiple answer now as well in a moment, and each one there's an explanation with it. Okay, now one thing to pay attention to in the explanation is that this explanation kind of explains some of the wrong answers as well, okay, and why students might have misconceptions about them. And again, this is just embedded within what a Hinge question is, or what an effective Hinge question is, and it's that every wrong answer is like a diagnostic into students' thinking. Okay, So again, that explanation just gives a bit of reasoning as to why some of these incorrect answers are shown to students as options. Okay. Now, it's obviously just generated 3 questions here. Now, I think they're all single answer, but if I want some multiple answer option, I can also do that. I'm actually just going to delete the first. Actually, I'm just going to delete the first 2 as well here, actually, and instead I'm going to generate a multiple answer option for the second one. Okay, so just click add question, and for this here I want this to be multiple answer, and I'm just going to say multiple answer question for the middle of the lesson. Click generate. From here it has given me the question, and there, in this case, there's 3 correct answers, but let's say I only wanted 2. I'm just going to say I only want 2 correct answers and simplify the language a bit. It will then rewrite the question for me and just select 2 correct answers here. It will also generate a new explanation for me here too. Okay. Now, there is some other formatting options. These are specific more so for maths and science. I'm going to cover them in a later tutorial, but everything is here. You can change anything if you like it or if you need to, but this is how you would create a multiple answer question option. Now, once again, this is of the quiz type. There is also poll and open answer, so I'll touch on those now next as well. So I'm just going to save this question here. Now, those other question types that I just mentioned about, the poll and open answer. So poll works the exact same as it works the exact same as a quiz question, except there is no correct answer. It's just a polling tool essentially, and it works the same in that it gives a question. There's multiple answers. You can select if students are only allowed to choose 1 or multiple answers in there, but effectively it works the exact same as a quiz question, except it is just, there's no right answer. Okay, now by default we don't generate these. Let's say when you go to create an initial session, it's not like we gave you the option to select these just yet. Again, our main focus is checking for understanding, and that's why these diagnostic Hinge questions is really the focus of these sessions. The other question type is an open answer one. So this is where you can create an open answer question. It's not multiple choice. Now, because it is open answer, it is a bit trickier for Nurture to be able to understand whether the student's answer is right or wrong. So there's a bit more setup involved with these question types. So here, in this case, I want an open answer opinion on the 3 biggest success features of the invasion. And I'm actually going to answer question. I'm not going to say opinion. Well, opinion might not have a correct answer whatsoever. So it's going to generate a question for me here. It's going to say, explain the 3 most critical success features that enable the Allied forces to secure a foothold during the Normandy invasion. Okay. Now, there's a couple of extra things you need to watch out for with these. Okay. With these, there has to be some success criteria attached. So there has to be at least 1 success criteria here. Now it has generated 3. So in this case, I think it's generated 3 simply because I've requested the 3 most critical success features, and it's really tying those success criteria back to it. So maybe I use that language a little bit too specifically there. But for these open answer questions, it has to have success criteria involved. It will aim to generate a model answer for you, but this model answer actually doesn't seem to have too much relevance for me here, so I can actually regenerate it if I want to. I don't want to show it to participants, so I'll just use it later on for the grading. I'll show the success criteria to my students, and I'll just click save question. Okay, so with that in mind, before we start the session, we've created 1 Hinge question with a single answer, 1 Hinge question with a multiple choice answer, and then we have 1 question that is an open answer question. Now, we're not going to get as much data out of it because we can't effectively check for understanding as clearly compared to multiple choice questions, but it's there if you want students to be able to do a quick answer in class as well. Okay. The final thing before I move on is you can also generate multiple different questions if you want to create a lot of them in one go. So up to 20 questions in one go you can create, but just bear in mind that when it's a live quiz like this is something that you run in class, so you may not have enough time to run all of those different question types, but you can always have them in your drafts and you can release whatever questions you feel are most relevant at the time. Okay, so this is how you prepare a session. I'm going to cover how you actually start a session and share it with your students and some of the inputs and feedback that comes back as your students answer these questions. So what I now have here is a split view of a teacher view of this session and a student view of this session. I've added a couple of extra students in here as well, just to show what those answers look like as they come in. Okay, now in order to share this with your students, you just need to click the share button, copy this join link and send it to them, and then they'll be able to access and join the session. Now if you're using it on Teams or in Canvas, this may appear up to them as soon as you start the session, so once they log in through Teams they might actually see the session immediately. But for the majority of you that are just using Signal in your browser, you would just click share and copy the join link and send it to your students. Okay, now once they've joined, you just need to start the actual session before you can actually send anything here. Now we can still see here that hasn't really made any impact on the student screen, and for this again, the purpose of this session is that you're just teaching your class as normal, and then after you teach the subtopic, then you're going to release your first question. Okay, so for this one I'm just going to click open question. Okay, now it has now released the question and I'm just waiting for my students to submit their answer. Okay, so a couple things just to compare here. I can obviously see what the question is, I can see the explanation, I'm waiting on responses and insights to come in. On the student side, they can obviously see the question here, but they can't see the explanation or the answer yet because I haven't revealed it to them. But obviously you need to wait for your students to actually submit their answer. So for this student here, I am just going to select this one and just going to type in an explanation of the answer here. So for this case, I'm just going to say, to confuse the access powers on where the landing was going to be to help establish a foothold. Let's click submit response, and once this student has completed the first question, I can see that's now done. I can always go back and just see what the answer was, but once it's submitted I'm not able to go back and edit my answer. Again, these are supposed to be very simple, quick checks for understanding. We don't necessarily need students to dwell on them too much. This is not something that you would use in an exam or anything like this. This is just for the teachers to be able to get a very quick read on where their students are at. Okay, on the teacher side, we can see that the answer came in live. Now at the moment, because there's only one student, the recommendation that we have here on the Barton scale is that we just need that we can move on. But as more students' responses come through and as wrong answers come through, will obviously change. Okay, so I'm actually just going to pause there and submit a couple of more students just to show what that looks like. And once a few more submissions come in here, I can see that this has changed the picture significantly enough. I know there's only 3 students here, but if you had a much larger class, you would have much greater data and insights. But in this case, 2 out of my 3 students got the answer incorrect completely. So in this case, we're on the Barton scale, it recommends to recap and check again. So what is the Barton scale? The Barton scale is a guideline, informs teachers whether they should move on from a topic, maybe recap and check again, or reteach. Okay, now in this case we have 33% of the answers are correct, so that really sits at the very low end of this recap and reteach threshold. So if you look at the thresholds here, if it's under 20%, that's mostly incorrect, so reteach. If they're all incorrect, then obviously you would need to reteach. But then if you look at the move on scales, that's 80% plus or else all correct. So because it sits between that 20 and 80%, we're recommending to recap and check again. But that decision is totally at the discretion of the teacher, and because it's at the lower end, so we're kind of much closer to the reteach thing here, teachers may want to completely reteach this specific topic here, okay? But that's the Barton scale. If you want to learn a little bit more about, check out course 3 on Nurture Learn, because we cover everything you need to know about Hinge questions and the Barton scale here for whether a teacher should move on, recap, or reteach, okay? Now, before I move on though, a couple other things we can call out here. I can reveal the answers to my students. So if I just click reveal answer, it's going to ask whether I want to reveal and close the question or reveal but keep it open. So what do these two options mean? So if I close the question, that would mean no one else can submit it. So let's just say I had a 4th student here and they hadn't submitted the question yet. If I reveal it and close the question, then they won't be able to submit an answer. If I reveal but keep it open, I believe it should keep it open for them to answer, but it's not going to reveal the answer to them. But anyone who has answered, it will reveal to them. So in this student's case, they got it correct. And here's that explanation that we seen earlier when we were generating the session as well, okay? A couple other things, we've got some explanations here, like some students actually, we can see maybe there was a potential guess. 2 students had their own reasoning. We can even send or track in Signal if a student has pasted an answer in from somewhere else. So we can see here that this student had a potential guess, and if we look at their explanation, they've just said I don't know. So we're just flagging to them there that it's just a potential guess on those students. And then if we just click to summarize the answer insights, this will look at all the explanations and give a summary of the understanding for your students, okay? So 1 participant correctly identified, the remaining 2 selected incorrect options, with 1 admitting uncertainty and the other focusing incorrectly on distracting air defenses, okay? Now, this is a very simple breakdown just because it's just 3 students, but if you had a much bigger class, this would be much more rich in terms of its insights that would have, okay? It also breaks it down by common themes. We do have a couple of other just little pieces of data here on the number of correct answers, incorrect answers, and the fastest answer and median answer. So that is everything you can look at on one question within a check for understanding piece. Again, this is something that for all of this data you might only come back to later. The purpose of checking for understanding like this with Hinge questions is that you should be able to release it to your class, get this within a minute or 2 or even less, and it'll inform you whether to recap and check again, move on, or even reteach. But let's say I'd moved on with the lesson now, I'd moved on to the next topic of the lesson, and the next thing is I want to release this multiple answer option question. Works the exact same way, so I will just release that to my students, okay? And in order for me to release it, you've just noticed there that I had to close the last question. So if you remember, we kept it open for if there was a student who hadn't submitted it, essentially. In order for me to release any next question, you must close the last question, okay? Now, that does mean it closes it out from students to be able to submit it. But if you want students to be able to submit questions in their own time and outside of class, or let's say if they join the session late, then I would recommend you use our other session type, which is our assessment, okay? Which works the exact same way as this, except students complete all the questions in their own time. Again, the whole purpose of this live quiz is something you run entirely in class with the students you have in front of you. So next then we have this multiple answer option question. So this works the exact same, but I just want to call out a couple of differences here. So because this is multiple correct answers, okay, now I just submitted with 1 student there, okay, because we have 3 students in this session, we have 2 correct answers and 2 incorrect answers. What we're actually looking for here is we want 6 out of 12 answers correct in order for this to be, 6 out of 6 answers correct in order for this to be 100% on in terms of understanding. So this student got 1 correct answer out of them, and it is saying 25%, but that is because we haven't got all the students submitted in here. But basically what I mean is when you have multiple correct answers here, the logic of how we determine how many correct answers have been selected changes slightly. So it all depends on the number of students that are in the session and the number of correct answers that are available, okay? Final question I'm just going to show you is obviously the open answer question, as I mentioned. Now this will release to your students, and on the student side they will have a text box where they can type out their answer. This is obviously they can type out anything they want to in here. This will require a minimum number of characters for them to respond to, and they can see the success criteria that we defined at the start of the session. Now these success criteria might give them too much of a hint on the answers, but again, success criteria with these open questions is what students need to work towards in order to create a good answer. And what will happen is once they submit their response, if you reveal the answer to them, reveal and close question. In this case, obviously I didn't submit an answer, but it should give that model answer that we created when it created that initial question. Now I know right now that model answer isn't exactly relevant, but when you do reveal it to your students, whatever was in that model answer box will be revealed to your students. Okay, perfect. So that is all of the questions like we ran in this session. Now I haven't got every student to answer every single question, but once we do end the session, we'll get that session insights again, and it just goes back to how many questions were answered correctly. This essentially gives you that overall, how well did your students understand this entire lesson, okay? And there is a bunch of different insights you can get on each student if you go into them a little bit further, okay? So with that in mind, there's a couple of other things you can do after. If you want, you can export this to a PDF. This will just give you that breakdown of each question one by one with each individual answer as well, and you can print that out for later. As I covered in the last video as well, you have your presenter view if you need to show these questions to your students on the board without them seeing individual student responses, and you can also preview each question as a participant as well. But the main point I want to get across in this video is these sessions for running live in class, they're really only for checking for understanding. We do tend to steer teachers towards using multiple choice Hinge questions, because those effectively designed Hinge question will be the quickest and most effective form of checking for understanding that you do with any students. Whereas an open answer one, it's not as clear in terms of the understanding we can get from it, but we do give it to you as an option as well. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And in the next tutorial, I'm just going to cover a very similar session type to this, which is quiz assessment, which works pretty much the exact same way. And the only difference is that students can complete it in their own time. And there's also a reflection element involved at the end for them to be able to reflect on their answers. Like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.